The ISIS terror threat continues to grow across the globe. Great Britain's threat level now stands at severe, meaning the possibility of a terrorist attack there is highly likely. The British Prime Minister made the announcement in a detailed briefing with reporters this week, and now Germany has said there is a, quote, increased abstract threat of attacks on the country. The domestic intelligence chief says he expects Islamic extremists who have traveled to Syria and Iraq will return and commit terror acts. Meantime, the White House is trying to rebound after President Obama admitted he has no strategy to deal with ISIS militarily in Syria. This as the president's own cabinet secretaries have warned that ISIS could be dangerous to the homeland. This is our topic this half hour. We want to hear from you. You can weigh in on our Facebook or Twitter. We want to turn now to our legal analyst, Chris Tritico, our news analyst, Mustafa Tamiz, and our public policy analyst, Jackie Bally. All right, the president saying he didn't want to put the cart before the horse. We don't have a strategy yet. The White House later clarifying that he was meaning strategy in Syria.
Well,
but
it's it's a difficult situation. The president's been trying to figure out what to do with a growing problem that could impact the entire world, and with them, when they're just in Syria, we can ignore it because we don't like the Syrian government anyway, so we can kind of ignore it. But when they start moving into Iraq, where we destabilize the government and we're kind of responsible, we have to do something. And now that this is growing, they're killing people, executing them. The president's got to do something, and Jackie's been dying all day to jump on the president on this, so I'm going to go to her first on this. You know, the president, I think what he was trying to say was we're evaluating, but what came out of his mouth was I don't have a strategy. That's a bad statement.
Yeah, and he's usually pretty articulate, and he usually at least can command a certain presence on the camera, and that's unfortunate for all of us because not only did a lot of the residents and citizens hear that. I'm sure ISIS heard it, China heard it, Russia heard it.
And it weakens us.
And, 11 years after 9/11 and 4 years after intelligence telling us about ISIS, not very good statements. So, you have a bad day when Feinstein and other Democrats are saying, look, Mr. President, that's not what you should be doing. Right. With all of that said, I want to reiterate what I said the last time we spoke about this. I think this is a time where conservatives and Republicans, we will have to work with the president. We will have to support him. I do think his statements were unfortunate because intelligence had been telling him for 4 years at least that this is a threat, a very prominent threat. So he needs to be more presidential. He needs to have a more sense of urgency to make us feel more comfortable. We do know that the intelligence is trying to do something, and we need to see those steps articulated and outlined very quickly, just like the Prime Minister from Britain did.
Mitch McConnell said last week that he would support the president if he sent in troops into Syria.
Well, some of the same people were saying that we should be bombing Syria and we should be bombing Assad's troops and arming the rebels against him. Now we're talking about bombing those same rebels. This is a very complicated issue. I don't think we should be discussing it in sound bites and talking about whether we should bomb or not bomb. This is a regional problem. I think the president is trying to be cautious in how he talks about it. It was unfortunate what he said, but we need to approach this very thoughtfully.
All right, let me go to Sally. She's monitoring our social media.
Let's take a look at what people are saying on Twitter right now. Representative Steve Toth saying everyone must have been shocked to hear that Obama didn't have a strategy to defeat ISIS. He's quoting Senator Ted Cruz there. Bob says Congress will be blamed, not the Democrats, though, and no one in the president's administration will be held accountable, the usual. Ann says, per an interview she had heard this week on Fox News, ISIS could be in Great Britain by next month and here by November. What part of that doesn't the president get? He has said, guys, that he's not going to push any sort of plan until Congress gets back from their August recess soon. Do we have that kind of time to wait?
Well, look, ISIS isn't here today that we have any idea about, and even if they are here today, the president would be working on that without announcing that anyway. The idea that Congress is going to be blamed for this, I don't think that this is an issue of who's to blame and who's not to blame. The issue for the president is how do I turn a country that doesn't want war back into war? And while we see polls moving, that the people are moving in favor of let's go in and do something, the president is still reeling from us getting out of Iraq.
Yes, he is. But again, we need to see him say, even if he were going to wait until November, which for some, the sense of urgency that I was stating about earlier, that's not what we want. He needs to say, look, we're going to have a 3-point plan, something like equivalent to what Cameron, what he did when he came out in his press release. Originally, he said, look, we're going to have an air campaign. We're going to go in there and put, try to replace some of the military aid that we for the Kurds that they need, but none of that is coming out right now, and there's just silence, and that's troubling to many of us.
Isn't that the problem? The president needs to be a little bit more assertive here.
Well, the problem is that there is not a simple solution. You can't boil it down to a number of points and say this is what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, and we're going to fix this for you, because that's not the issue.
It's too fluid.
It's too fluid, and the other thing is that the real threat is not ISIS in tanks marching down Britain or the United States. It's individuals that have British passports, German passports, and
American
US passports,
right?
that we're worried about slipping through the system and come back in here. And anything that the president said can inflame the situation and put Americans in danger. So he's being cautious about what he says. It's not about acting tough. It's about being smart.
I've said this once, I'll say it before, because of his lack in foreign policy, we are, and a lot of China, Russia, a lot of those countries are looking at this, and his statements and his actions are just proving what I've said from day one.
At the same time, you say we have to support the president, and every other conversation is about attacking the president.
All right.
That's not going to help.
We're going to leave it right there, Sally. We'll be back next week. All right, that's enough. We'll be back next week with some really good topics.
Got to reel him in, Chris. All right.
Trying to.
Thanks, guys. We appreciate it. Have a great Sunday. Happy Labor Day.